Okay, the volume control is repaired. Now, for those of you that want to go down that road, remember I told you the volume control has a strip, a horseshoe-shaped strip of carbonized material. That's the resistor in there that makes it a variable resistor, which makes it a volume control. Now, if that gets all torn up, you take a number 2 pencil with not a sharp point, and you rub it on that, and you retouch it up, and you should be ready to go. Now, in this case of this radio has sat from the day it was made in a box. Okay? Now, there's several things that happened over just sitting in a box. The 4 capacitors in the radio dried out to where they had no capacitance. Okay, I changed the 4 capacitors. Took my time, gotta be very careful, don't want to break a trace. The whole thing, turned the radio on, realized the volume control was hitting and missing. Okay, now I showed you close-ups in other videos of that volume control. Now, the volume control had, let's see, that would be one thing wrong with it was that I found later on was the grease that goes between the steel hub that rotates in the plastic body was like tar. Okay, and that was keeping the wiper arm from putting back pressure back through the mechanism to the other side till there was a pickup, the Y-shaped pickup. All right, first of all, the Y-shaped pickup was never adjusted correctly. One of the wiper arms on the pickup for the resistance, that was not set correctly. Now, so the unit sits there like that. Say in the factory they got by, they turned it on, it worked, and the grease wasn't turned to tar yet, but the person got it. And when they moved it up and down on volume, the volume would kick on and off because the Y-shaped pickup on the arm that on the arms that move, okay, that wasn't bent correctly in the factory. It was just straight. It had no spring to it. And then when I noticed the wiper arms, one was adjusted differently, so I adjusted a little bit more positive amount, so both wiper arms would be out further. When I put it together, I noticed that the pressure from the wiper arm wasn't going through the hub to the back side, so it could touch the pickup arm. And then as I moved it, all of a sudden it was there. And then I realized the grease had gotten hard. I rechanged the grease and then realized, yes, there was enough positive force from the wiper arms on the resistor pad to push backwards to the pickup arm. But the pickup arm, the Y-shaped piece of brass, still wasn't formed correctly in the factory. Okay, so I took a little tiny drill and I drilled out the rivet that holds that Y piece on there. And I saved that rivet. And when you pull that Y piece off, then the assembly comes apart. So I tried to make a rivet, and I had made the rivet. It took a while, turning it down on the drill press, piece of brass. I'll show you one of my pieces of brass. I have brass rods, no problem. When I was cutting the rivet to length, it went to the abyss. Now, if you don't know what the abyss is, that's that magical 4th dimension in any workshop that when you drop a part or it springs loose from you, you never ever find it again. So after I don't know how long of building the little miniature rivet, I lost it. And I almost lost it mentally, but I'm used to that. You know, over the years, you can put work into a part and it just doesn't work out. You have to accept it. Now, in this case, that was the smallest part I've ever tried to make in my life. Okay? And it didn't go well. So I laid in bed thinking, well, I could put a piece of bus wire through there. Nothing was that size. The hole through the black plastic part was 0.05. Okay, and nothing I had was 0.05. No wire. Everything was either bigger or larger, and there's several ways. And then it hit me. I could take that piece, that's the connection, that center Y-shaped pickup. I could use the rivet from the top side and put some epoxy on. So I got everything in position. I took the tar substance off. I put a little bit of Vaseline on there, put it together, made sure everything was lined up. And then I got my epoxy out. I dropped some epoxy down in there. I put some epoxy on the top or down in the rivet hole, and I put the rivet through the top, holding the pickup for that goes into the hub that rotates, and it's in the groove or the channel of the hub. And yeah, I'm giving you these ideas just in case you should go down that road. But remember, when those volume controls were made, Radio Shack sold them for 69 cents. That's how sad this is. And to have a radio become junk because you can't get a volume control that fits in it. But that was a problem with my holiday radio. In about the 1980s, the volume control finally crapped out. And I had to find a volume control, a brand new one. I got it at the electronic barn. But it was totally different, so I had to make a bracket. I spent the better part of the day customizing a bracket to hold the volume control into that radio. And I did it just for prosperity. I wanted my childhood radio to be operating. I could not get that exact volume control. There's like 5 different kinds. And now I got this radio working. Supposedly I have 5 volume controls coming from the UK. And I don't know. I don't know how many more transistor radios I want to work on. My project, my IF, here it is. Notice how these capacitors are soldered on there? Okay? That's the way the military mounts stuff, because when you mount a capacitor to a wider connection, more connection, you get less skin effect. Okay, so you can actually solder them on there like that. And this just needs a few more little miniature wires, and this will be ready to test. But I lined up a bunch of projects, so I'd be busy because I knew we were going to get a rainstorm. Those hurricanes started to come through, but unfortunately, the post office went totally out of sync, and nothing showed up on the day it rained, or nothing was here that I could work on when it rained. But this radio here has sat in a box, and as I'm looking at it, I'm going, there's more to that volume control that's bad than just that oxide. But that oxide on that little fork-shaped thing that goes into the hub, it's the pickup. In other words, the hub can turn, and it's like slip rings. They used to call it like slip rings. It was oxidized both sides, and I took it apart and I cleaned it with an eraser. I didn't use any, oh, you gotta use deox. No, I used an eraser to clean the oxide off. And then where the hub went through the plastic part, I cleaned the tar stuff off, and that was some type of old grease, and it was probably some type of animal fat way back. And then I put just a little bit of Vaseline there. I've used Vaseline before, and I've never had it react with anything. That's why I still use it, okay? I don't try molybdenum grease, whatever the hell it is. Very bad luck in VCRs. That stuff, the material, the liquid that keeps it movable migrates away from it and it gets rock hard. So that's why I always use Vaseline, okay? So anyway, I got this radio back together. It works fine. And one of the things I noticed is none of these transistors go all the way up to 1600, okay? One of them almost gets there. Now, I know from a Collins radio, there was a Collins radio, it used a really large ferrite plunger. And that plunger would shrink over time, and the inductance would go up. So you had to modify the radio by taking a couple turns off the oscillator coil. Or it's a plunger, but in other words, it's a coil. You have to take a few turns off. Otherwise, the oscillator wouldn't go up high enough in frequency. So it is possible that the ferrite rods in the antenna rod gets more dense, and it throws off the thing. And maybe in the IF shifts over. I don't know. But I'm going to play around with it. But maybe the radios, when they made them back then, they didn't really care about going to 1600. Here we have a low-powered rock and roll station at 1600. It's called Sweet 16. And that's the station I use to test for sensitivity on a radio. And the more modern radios that go to 1700, they get 16 really good. Now, the old Zenith I bought, like Oceanic, whatever the hell that piece of garbage is, that thing you have to go to the second band. At 1600, the radio's not sensitive. And then you go to the next band, and 1600 is up from the bottom, and it works, okay? And that's one of the things, older radios aren't that, they're not as good as the modern ones. some of the more modern radios, if you put a little extra money in, are much better radios than old tube radios. And old tube radios, for the price you get them, if you know how to restore them, they are pretty damn good. Okay, but if you take the what the radio cost and use the inflation meter on the internet, then you realize what you're going to have to spend nowadays to get something that should be better than that radio. And that's what it takes. And a lot of people go, well, this old tube radio, it's pulling in better than that. That's because you're comparing apples and oranges. Okay, find out what that old tube radio cost. Take that amount, put it in the inflation meter, and then look at what it goes to. And then you'll see you got to really buy a really expensive radio to equal what that one was back in its day. And modern radios have frequency counters on them and digital displays. So if you turn to 1600 on a radio, you know you're on 1600. With these things, you're not really sure. You're poking around. But I got this. I just started watching Shango's videos, and then all of a sudden, I got the bug to work on a few transistor radios. And I'm very meticulous. I take my time. I don't want to break any traces. But this radio, it got me. I got it all back together, and the volume control was no good. And I'm like, this thing's been sitting in the box. See, I have the original box. I have the original cover for the box. Okay, so you know it's been sitting somewhere not working. You know, someday I'm going to get that, open that up. I'm going to fix that. Yeah, and someone put it on eBay. I got it, and I'm like, okay. But I went a little further this time on the volume control. Like I told you, when I was a little kid, I was looking at Popular Electronics, and in one of the back pages, they always have these recommended tips. And you know, you take the toothpaste cap off, and you Delco cement it onto a radio, onto a clock radio if you lost the knob. All kinds of little tips like that. You know, good luck finding that brand of toothpaste. By the time the magazine comes out, they've changed the size of the cap. But they used to do that. And then they used to have like something called like late night fix. And they would have little suggestions, or weekend fix. You know, whenever you're in a lurch to fix something, and it was the volume control that was really scratchy and no bottom end. And you know, when it has no bottom end, you gotta listen to the radio really loud. You gotta get up past the part that's bad. Well, this person showed take a pencil and then recode it with the pencil. And I memorize stuff. So anything I really like, when I read it, I remember it forever, or for as long as I live. Okay, and that's how I am. And then people are like, how did you find? I said, just read it somewhere, and it stuck because it was something I thought was interesting. You know, and that's how I used to fix my old volume control. And you go to a store and get another volume control. Like where? When I was growing up, I told you it was Lafayette Radio in Syosset, New York. I think it was Syosset. And you'd mail away. My mom would write a check out. You mail it away, and they send you a letter back and say it's not in stock. Okay, they had this giant freaking catalog, and none of it would ever be in stock. And I used to go nuts. And they would send you a check back, and you forget the whole thing. And then you got a radio, you know, then I saw the tip, and I went in there with my pencil, and I fixed it that way. But, you know, anytime you go through these catalogs, even the Radio Shack stores, what was good about Radio Shack, if it was in that catalog, it was going to be in one of the stores. So it was just a matter of traveling between the stores. And one of the stores would have the part. And it would be on the wall. You didn't have to ask the guy. If you knew how the number system worked, you walk in there, and sometimes there would be a part in front of it. Somebody would pick a part off next to it and put it in front of you. You got to be careful for that. But, you know, and I did buy a volume control at the Electronic Barn. And I'm looking, I'm like, this is close to what I need. But, of course, it was a little bit bigger, and the holes didn't line up. They had 2 threaded holes to hold the nut. So I went home and I had to make a bracket. And I made it out of a piece of, I think it was PVC, plastic. And it was part of the day, you know, getting it so it would all fit in there and line up. Because, you know, you got to get the knob to center in the slot. Otherwise it drags. So, you know, I didn't just throw it together. I made measurement. I had the micrometer out there. Or I take you back, the calipers out there. And figure out what thickness I had to have. And I got that radio back working again. And that's the way I am. And I laugh at, like, I was looking at video, and guys saying that the videos are dropping off on on YouTube. Not as many people are on YouTube. They're on TikTok, whatever it is, and that's because people want shorter videos. Okay, they don't want a video on how to fix a volume control on a radio, but I only do it because there are people out there. There's a few of us in the world that get in this predicament, and like I said, I ordered 5 volume controls from the UK. Are they going to get here? Are they? I don't know. You know, they were supposed to send me an email by now confirming the order. They haven't done that. Okay? So you don't know if it's just some shyster up there. And her name is Female Joan. That makes sense. Yeah, that sounds real. But anyway, it started eating at me. What was wrong with that volume control? And like I said, the grease is from sitting from time. That always gets hard. You can count on that on VCRs, old record players. You can count on the grease getting rock hard. Okay, now, then I noticed that pickup, Y-shaped pickup, that was all black. And the metal groove in the hub that transferred that signal from the 2 wipers, that was jet black. And I wanted to show you, remember I told you to use erasers? And I want to show you, hopefully this focuses. Notice how the tip is cut? Can you see that? That's so I could get in the groove and clean it. That's why I like erasers, okay? And you can see there's dirt on the end of that. That's the black stuff that was in that groove of the hub that the little brass Y went into, the pickup. And I cleaned that all, and then I started looking at it. I'm like, one wiper is higher than the other. Okay, let's bring the one that's lower up higher. And then I noticed that the kickback spring from the side with the wiper on was working correctly, but then wasn't working correctly. Then I realized I had a problem with the grease drying out. I cleaned that, and then the pressure from the wipers pushing down on the resistive material did pull out the unit. And it would pull it out against the Y-shaped pickup, but the Y-shaped pickup was never properly, formed before they put it together. And I could tell that because I have another volume control, and you could see how those parts are formed. So I knew to just, and I mean the tiniest bit, just so you got connection. And then, like they say, all the way up nice and smooth, all the way down, like a brand new control. But, you know, the battery will come out of this, it'll probably go back in the box, and it'll probably be never used again. See, I told you I buy stuff, I fix it just to stay busy. All right? And in this case, I got busier. But I want to tell you about that vortex, or the 4th dimension. And that's where all the parts go when they jump out of your hand. Sometimes you can find it. Now, this room has a rug in it, and you're not going to find anything tiny. That's it. And when I was putting that thing I called the Jesus clip, that little C clip on, you can't believe how careful I was. And that thing still jumped out of my hand 6 inches. And it landed on the bench, and I was really lucky. And I could have fudged that with some bus wire. But the thing is, when you're working with something you only have one of, it's really difficult. And you know, I wanted to say about the volume control. Radio Shack had it like 59 cents, 69 cents. There were 2 kinds. There was 5K and 10K. That's the other thing. The one coming, I don't know which resistance they're going to be. Okay, they're just selling really hard to get volume controls for transistor radio. That's how it's basically labeled. So you got to take what you can get. And I just decided that, you know what, I had re-put one in my old radio. I had recoded it with the pencil, but this was something I never saw before, and that's because this has been sitting somewhere getting worse. And when it was made, they didn't adjust the wiper arms correctly or the pickup Y-shaped contact on the movable hub with a slot in it. I think that's it. I hope somebody enjoys this video, but you know what? I understand that. You know, most of the people out in the world are going to buy one of these, ask a few questions about recapping, and that's as far as it's going to go. Okay? I told you, when you go in and recap one of these radios, take some pictures before you do. Those wires in there, they can jump off on you. How are you going to figure out where they go back without the SAMs? Okay? And if it does, you'll order the Sam's, you put the Sam's in the closet somewhere or a drawer, and that's as far as you're going to go. I finally figured people out. And when the stuff would actually get done, is they would bring it to me. And then they didn't want to pay me anything. Oh, throw it out then. Just throw it out. Waste my time. My whole life was like that. And one of the things I've learned recently, I'm watching reading all those self-help groups, like, those videos, like why people become rich and why people don't become. I had all the soldiers lined up in the row, except one. It says you have to get rid of your friends. You have to move forward in life. And I was so loyal to my old friends, and every one of them, basically, except two, have stabbed me in the back. Okay? Because the longer you go on through life, they get jealous of you. They think, well, he's got more money than I got. He's got more money than God. They actually used to say that to me. Oh, you got more money than God. Well, what'd you do with yours? You smoked it, you drank it away. Okay? Meanwhile, I'm buying tools that you don't have, and I'm over there with my tools bailing you out. Okay? But, hey, he's got more money than God. I think that's it. All right, that's it.